Hey everyone. I know I went quiet for a few days. I just needed a little break to reset my mind and clear my head for a bit. But I'm back now, and I really appreciate you all sticking around. Today's video has 3 really creepy stories I've been wanting to share. These ones definitely made me uneasy, so sit back and let's get started. This was back in 2021. My friend Jamie and I used to do this hiking trail on the weekends. Mostly unused park area on the edge of town. We weren't even planning anything special that day. Just walking, talking about stuff, school, work, some drama, one of his coworkers started, whatever. I had this cheap lemon energy drink in my backpack that was leaking a bit because the cap wouldn't twist shut right. I remember that because it kept making my bag smell like a cleaning product. Things like that stick with me for no reason. There's this part of the trail where it gets kind of narrow and bends around a bunch of bushes. Every time we walked it, I joked that we were going to find some weird thing someone tossed there, like a doll missing a head or a single shoe, which, by the way, we actually did find once. So when Jamie stopped really fast and went, "Yo, dude, what's that?" I honestly thought he'd found another random piece of trash. He crouched down in the dirt and pulled something out from between the roots of this tree. It was a wallet. A really beat-up one, like the kind your grandpa probably carried around for 30 years. Brown leather but faded almost gray, edges cracked, the whole thing stiff from sitting in the sun and dirt. He laughed and said, "Maybe there's money in that joking way," and he flipped it open. I don't know how to explain this next part, but the second he opened it, both of us made this weird noise, somewhere between a gasp and a yell. I don't think either of us meant to do it. It just came out. Because inside, where you'd normally put a photo or an ID, was inside the wallet was what looked like an ear, a dried one, shriveled, dark, and just wrong. And it didn't look fake, not in the cheap Halloween prop way. It looked like something that shouldn't ever be in a wallet. My whole body went cold so fast I actually felt dizzy for a second. Jamie dropped the wallet like it burned him. He was saying, "No, nope, dude, what is that? What the hell?" Like he was trying to convince himself it wasn't what it was. I remember backing up without even thinking, bumping into a bush hard enough that it scratched my arm. I didn't even feel it at the time. My brain was just trying to make sense of something that didn't make any sense at all. I don't know how long we stood there staring at it. Jamie finally said, "Put it back. Let's go. Let's just go, dude." But we didn't even pick it up. We just left it where it fell and started walking back. My chest felt tight the whole time. The trail eventually opens into a wider clearing, and that's when Jamie grabbed my arm. "Don't freak out," he said, which of course makes you freak out immediately. I turned and saw a man standing 50, 60 feet behind us, just on the bend of the narrow part of the trail. I can't explain why he scared me so much. He wasn't running at us or yelling. He was just there, facing our direction. I thought he was another hiker and we were being paranoid. Though something about him felt off. His clothes looked kind of mismatched, like he just threw stuff on without caring how it fit. Dark pants, some oversized jacket. His posture was weird too, like his shoulders were locked. Jamie said, "That's not the guy we passed earlier." And he was right. We hadn't seen anyone on the way in. We just started walking faster. Then on the next check, he was gone. Like actually gone. Just not there at all. Jamie said, Dude. He was right there," in this panicked whisper. I didn't even answer. I just wanted to get out of there. We reached the edge of the park, and that's when we finally talked about calling the cops. For all we knew, that wallet belonged to someone who went hiking and never came back. Maybe someone had gone missing and turned into an unalive person, and nobody found them yet. We didn't want to touch the wallet again, obviously, but we figured the police needed to see it. There was no cell service deep in the trail, so we had to walk out to the parking lot. When the dispatcher answered, I think both of us talked over each other trying to explain. We said we'd found something that might be related to a missing person. The cops told us to stay where we were, and they'd meet us at the trail entrance. 2 officers in separate cars. They asked a bunch of questions right away, like exactly where the wallet was, if we touched anything besides picking it up, if we had any reason to believe it belonged to someone we knew. Then we led them back in. That walk back into the trees felt so much worse. When we reached the spot, the wallet was gone. I felt this immediate cold rush down my spine, like I had just stepped into a freezer. Jamie kept saying, "No way, no way. It was right here, right here." He kept pointing at this spot near the tree root. You could see the indent in the dirt where something had been sitting. One of the cops crouched down and looked around. The other started shining his flashlight into the brush. "Could have been an animal," he said. But even he didn't sound convinced. Then the first officer. "Look at this," he said. There were footprints, like someone ran up fast and stopped at the exact spot where the wallet had been. You could tell from the way the dirt was kicked up behind the prints, like whoever it was moved in a hurry, and there were fresh ones leading back the way we came. The cops exchanged that look cops do when they're saying a whole conversation with their eyebrows. There was a guy following us, or like behind us at least. Jamie tried describing him, but honestly, neither of us got a great look. It was more the presence than the face. I said he had a jacket, and he stood weird, and the cop wrote it down slowly like he didn't know what to make of it. When we got to the parking lot, one of the officers asked if he could call us later with follow-up questions. We gave our numbers. They let us go after that. Jamie drove us home because my hands were shaking too much. The whole car ride was silent until he suddenly said, "You think he came back for it?" I didn't want to answer, but yeah, I absolutely thought that. They didn't find anything else on the trail. If the guy picked it up, that means he must have been close, like really close. Close enough that he doubled back fast, grabbed it, and left without us hearing a single thing. Something about the silence of that place stuck with me in a way I can't shake off. I mean, who carries something like that around? And why was he so desperate to get it back? I don't know if the man behind us was the owner of the wallet or just someone who found it before we did and didn't want anyone else touching it. But the timing was too perfect, too exact. We drop it. We leave. We come back with the cops. It's gone. And there are prints like someone sprinted to reclaim it. I don't think it was a coincidence. I don't think we were alone on that trail for more than a minute. And whatever was in that wallet, he wanted it back badly enough to appear out of nowhere, follow us silently, and then disappear again before the police got there. I've had creepy things happen in my life. Weird noises, people acting strange in public, all that normal stuff. But nothing, and I mean nothing, has ever made my skin crawl the way that did. He didn't follow us all the way out. He vanished halfway, which means he didn't care that we were leaving. He only cared about one thing, and he already had it. I don't know what he did after that, where he went, why he had that thing in the first place. I didn't sleep that night. I mean, I thought I did, but when I think back, it was more like I just lay there with my eyes shut, drifting in and out, not fully dreaming, not fully awake. And I remember I left my phone on the nightstand because it had like 18% battery or something, and I was too tired to plug it in. I think it was around 6-something in the morning when I felt the vibration, like the buzzing kind of blended with this weird half dream I was having about someone knocking on a door. For a second I thought it was the door, and I sat up, but the house was quiet. Even the fridge wasn't making that little humming sound it usually does. So I grabbed my phone, not even fully awake, and I see this text from a number I didn't have saved. Just, "Are you awake yet?" At first, I didn't even process it. I thought it was my coworker, because sometimes she messages me early if she needs a shift covered. But it wasn't her number, and nobody else ever texts me that early. My friends all know I'm useless before 9. So yeah, I just kind of stared at it. It didn't freak me out right away. It was more like, who the hell texts something like that out of nowhere? I typed back, half asleep. Wrong number. Simple. I tossed the phone back on the bed and was about to go wash my face when it buzzed again. This time, the text wasn't a message. It was a photo. A photo of my house, taken from inside a car. The window of the car showed the edge of the dashboard and the blurry outline of a hand holding the phone. And it wasn't like a Google Street View photo or anything. This was fresh, taken in the dark. My porch light was still on in the photo. I don't really know how to explain the feeling I got. It wasn't panic right away. I mean, it was more like my stomach dropped, but then my brain tried to convince me there was a reasonable explanation. Like maybe someone pranking me, maybe a friend, maybe someone typed the wrong number and realized it was my house and thought it'd be funny. But then another thought hit me. How would someone even know it was my house enough to send me a picture of it? I don't have my address anywhere public. I don't post it. I don't even order that much online. So now I'm awake, like fully awake. I text back, "Who is this?" No answer. I waited, like 30 seconds, maybe a full minute. It felt long. I sent another one, not funny, still nothing. That's when I got nervous for real, like this weird prickling feeling behind my ears, like my body knew something before my brain caught up. I checked outside through the window next to my kitchen table. I figured the person had already driven off. I don't know why I typed what I typed next. I guess fear makes you think saying something tough might scare the other person into backing off. I wrote, "If you don't respond, I'm calling the cops." I hit send, tossed my phone on the table, and just stood there listening. I don't even know what I expected to hear. A car door? Footsteps? I don't know. But there was nothing. Nothing at all. I waited like 5 minutes, pacing around, checking my phone every couple seconds. Whoever it was didn't respond. And maybe I should have called the cops right then. But it's embarrassing how much you second guess yourself. The thought that the cops might say it's just someone messing around, I didn't want to deal with that awkwardness. Plus, I felt so freaked out that staying in the house alone suddenly seemed like the stupidest idea ever. I kept thinking that if this person really was outside earlier, what if they were still close by? The photo felt fresh. My parents live like 20 minutes away. I figured I'd just pack a bag and go there for the night. Talk to them about it. Maybe actually call the cops once I wasn't alone. So yeah, I grabbed a backpack, stuffed some clothes in it, and kept glancing out the window like every 10 seconds. I didn't see anything weird, so eventually I convinced myself it was fine. My mistake was going out the side door instead of the front. I thought it would be safer since the front yard faces the street. I figured whoever took that picture was probably parked out there. Side door felt less exposed, less obvious. I didn't even turn the outside light on. I just cracked the door, peeked out, didn't see anything, and stepped onto the little concrete path that leads around the house. And I heard something, like someone brushing against the wall or the bushes. I took one more step, and that's when he came out from the side of the house. He didn't run at me. He just appeared fast, like he was waiting around the corner and moved the second he saw me. And he put both his hands on my arms and tried to push me backward toward the door. Like he really wanted me inside the house. I don't know. It's like my brain couldn't catch up to what was happening. All I remember clearly was the feeling of his hands. They were slippery, like oily or something. Not sweaty, not normal. There was something black on them, like some kind of thick residue. And it smeared onto the sleeves of my hoodie when he grabbed me. That's when adrenaline finally kicked in. I twisted away and shoved him off, harder than I thought I could. My feet slipped in the grass, but somehow I kept my balance. He reached out again, but I was already running toward the front yard. I don't remember screaming. I might have. I just sprinted. I cut across the grass and ran into the street. Didn't even check for cars. My phone was in my hand. I dialed the cops. I remember hearing my own breath over the phone. Loud, out of control. I couldn't even get words out at first. I was saying, someone is here, until the operator finally calmed me down enough to explain. The officers checked around the house. There was nothing there, just my garden hose and some dead leaves. Then they checked my hoodie. The black stuff he got on me, it was still there, still slippery. The officer tried to scrape a little onto a tissue, but the texture was weird, like tar, but thinner. It didn't smell like anything. It didn't feel like oil exactly, like some kind of industrial gel. They took the tissue for evidence or whatever. When I got to my parents' house, my mom hugged me so hard it hurt. My dad kept walking around the front porch checking outside even though the cops had just been there. They both tried to act calm, but I could see it in their faces. Nobody really knew what to think. No one ever found the guy. The phone number never texted again. The photo, the first one, was the only clue. I showed it to the officers, and they said they'd trace the number. When they got back to me a couple days later, they said the number wasn't tied to any real name, probably a prepaid SIM. They couldn't track the car from the photo either, because the angle didn't show anything useful. They also tested the black stuff from my hoodie. They didn't give me much info, but they did say it wasn't something common. It wasn't gasoline or engine oil or anything you'd expect. They said it didn't match their standard materials list, whatever that means. The officer asked me if I had any work that involved chemicals or industrial materials. I said no. I work in an office. I don't touch anything weird. He asked if anyone I knew did. Again, no. He asked if I'd been followed before, if I noticed anyone watching me recently. I said no to all of that. I'm pretty boring. I don't go out much. So yeah, nothing added up. Everything went back to normal, at least on the outside. Work, errands, bills, life kept going. But I didn't, because there was still this one thing that I couldn't forget. That guy, the one who tried to push me back inside, he didn't say a single word, not one. And the way he held me, he wasn't trying to pull me toward him. He wasn't grabbing at my bag or my phone. He wanted me inside the house, not dragged away, not taken somewhere else, inside. Like he wasn't done with whatever he planned to do. I don't know why that part sticks with me the most. And the texture of his hands, I can still feel it sometimes when I think about it. Cold, slippery, that weird residue smearing onto my sleeves. I threw that hoodie away, but I swear I can still smell this faint metallic scent that wasn't there before. Kind of like the smell of old batteries or something that's been sitting out too long. I keep wondering where he went after I ran. He didn't chase me, so he must have gone around the back. Or maybe he hid somewhere. The cops would have found him if he stayed close, right? I don't know. Nobody knows. The officers checked the security footage from the street cameras. They didn't see any car that looked suspicious around the time I got the text. Nothing matching the angle of the photo. Nothing showing anyone walking around my property. Which basically means the person must have parked somewhere off camera and waited. Or the cameras missed it. Or the person knew exactly where the blind spots were. And one more thing. I still have the original photo. Whenever I open it, I notice one small detail nobody else pointed out. In the corner of the windshield reflection, there's a shape, not something obvious, just a dark shape, leaning slightly, almost like something was pressed close to the glass from the inside of the car. Not a person, but something with a vague outline, almost like it was coated in the same black stuff that was on his hands. Everyone says the same thing. It's just a shadow. But shadows don't smear onto your clothes. I keep telling myself that none of this means anything, that the guy is long gone. But the truth is, nobody caught him. Nobody identified him. Nobody figured out what that black stuff was. Nobody explained why he singled out my house. Nobody knows why he wanted me inside. And the number never texted again. Which almost makes it worse. Because if someone goes to all that trouble, waiting outside a house, taking a picture, sending it, trying to push someone back inside, they don't just stop. Not like that. So yeah. Maybe I'm being paranoid, it's just trauma or whatever. People go through stuff and their brain makes patterns out of nothing. I get that. I was helping out a coworker at the time, someone I wasn't even super close with. Her name was, let's call her Jenna. We worked in the same office but barely talked, you know, one of those hallway smile coworkers. She asked me if I could watch her place for a week because she was flying out to see her family. Feed her cat, water some plants, bring in her packages, easy stuff. Honestly, I only agreed because I lived in this tiny apartment back then and her house was way nicer. Bigger kitchen, actual driveway, decent AC. I thought, sure, free mini vacation. No big deal. Her house was in this quiet neighborhood. Not fancy, just normal suburban stuff. A lot of the homes looked the same. Her place was a one-story house, long layout, kind of like someone stretched a rectangle. Bedroom on the far right end, kitchen in the middle, living room on the left. Nothing unusual. At least, that's what I thought. The first night, just different. I wasn't used to being in a house by myself. Apartments always have noise. People walking upstairs, cars going by, someone dropping something, TV bleeding through thin walls. Houses are too quiet. You hear way more of your own breathing than you want to. I unpacked a few things, fed her cat, weirdly quiet cat, barely made a sound, and went to bed around midnight. Sometime in the night, I woke up because I heard something. I didn't even know what it was. You know that half-awake moment when your brain is still buffering? It took me a minute to place it. Footsteps, slow ones. The kind you'd hear if someone was pacing and trying not to make noise, but still making noise. I remembered it was a one-story house. There was no upstairs, but the footsteps were definitely above me, like ceiling level. I got up, checked the hallway. Nothing. Checked the windows, all locked. Checked every room. Everything was normal. Too normal. The footsteps stopped about 2 minutes after I woke up. I assumed it was something in the walls or the AC messing with the vents. Houses make noises. Next day was fine. Fed the cat again. Tried not to think about the footsteps. Next night, this time the steps weren't slow. They sounded like someone was walking from one end of the house to the other, passing over the living room, then the kitchen, then the hall, then back again. Almost like they were pacing in a loop. No rhythm to it. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes a pause like they were stopping to listen. And again, above me. I remember staring at the ceiling so long my eyes were stinging. I touched the ceiling with a broom handle because part of me needed to make sure I wasn't imagining the fact that the sound was literally higher than the roof. There was nothing above the ceiling except the attic space, and it wasn't even big enough to stand in. I barely slept that night. On the third day, I called Jenna. I didn't go into detail because it felt stupid to complain about house noises. I just asked if she ever heard things at night. She laughed it off. "Old ducks," she said. "House moves a lot when the temperature changes." I knew she didn't believe that herself because she said it way too fast. Third night, the footsteps didn't happen until around 3 a.m. I checked the time because I thought I dreamed it the first 2 times. But no, I was awake, very awake. Same pattern, same weird pacing. At that point, I was so tired and irritated I actually talked out loud. I said, "Can you stop?" Like some exhausted dad yelling at a roommate. And the footsteps stopped. Not gradually, just cut off. That felt worse. Honestly, I think I would have preferred if they kept going. Nothing else happened that night. Fourth night, I didn't sleep at all. Not a minute. The house felt wrong, like someone else was there, but not in the rooms I could see. More like someone was always passing just slightly out of reach. I felt it every time I walked from one room to another. I tried distracting myself. TV on low volume, scrolling on my phone, talking to the cat. Didn't help. The silence between the sounds felt louder than the sounds themselves. On the 5th night, my last planned night there, I told myself I'd crash early and just push through it. I was exhausted. I barely had anything left to give emotionally. I kept telling myself, just one more night, then I'm done. I brushed my teeth, checked the locks again, and headed toward the guest room I'd been sleeping in. It was around 11:30. The house had that stale, still feel it gets right before midnight, where it feels like everything is holding its breath. When I walked into the room, I didn't notice anything at first. I tossed my phone on the bed, pulled the blanket back, and reached over to turn off the lamp. And I saw someone was standing in the corner of the room, right next to the closet door. There was someone there. My brain didn't even process it fully. I didn't freeze or scream. The moment I understood that there was a person inside the room with me, I bolted. I ran out of the room so fast I hit my shoulder against the doorframe. Ran through the hallway, grabbed my shoes without putting them on, and sprinted out of the house barefoot. I sat in my car in the driveway shaking so hard that I kept missing the buttons on my phone. I finally called Jenna. She answered on the 3rd ring, sounding half asleep. I told her somebody was in the house. I didn't even try to sound calm. I just said it straight. She didn't believe me. Not even a little. She kept saying things like, "Are you sure it wasn't your shadow? You're probably tired. You're just stressed. You didn't see anyone." She was more focused on convincing me I'd imagined it than actually listening. I stayed in my car for 40 minutes, waiting to see if anyone came out of the house. No one did. I didn't go back inside the house at all. Not even to get my stuff. She got back the next day. I gave her the keys and told her I couldn't finish the last day. I didn't go into detail because I knew she wouldn't believe me. Honestly, I was embarrassed. It felt like I'd lost it. She brushed it off, said don't worry about it, in this weirdly cheerful voice that sounded fake as hell. I could tell she was annoyed though, like I'd inconvenienced her or something. Anyway, life went on. I quit that job a couple years later, moved to a different city, and mostly forgot about the whole thing. Or tried to. But here's where it gets strange. About 3 years after that, I bumped into Jenna. She looked tired, thinner, like she'd been through something. We ended up talking in the parking lot, and out of nowhere she said, "About that night, you weren't imagining it." I didn't know what she meant at first. I genuinely thought she was talking about something else entirely. Then she said the house's address, and everything inside me just tightened up. She told me she had lied on the phone because she didn't want to freak me out while I was staying there. But she believed me, completely. She said she had heard things too. Not footsteps, but like someone moving around when she was alone. Objects not being where she left them. A door closing on its own once, but in a way that looked intentional, not like a draft. She said the house always felt wrong. Her exact word. And she told me something that stuck with me way more than anything I experienced. She said the house had a dark history. I asked what she meant, but she didn't explain. Not fully. She said she didn't want to get into it in a parking lot and that she'd tell me some other time. But we never met again. Here's the thing though, when she said the words dark history, she didn't say it dramatically. She said it quietly, like someone confessing something that still bothers them. She moved out of that house not long after I stayed there. She didn't say the exact reason, but she implied it was because of the things she saw and heard, and something else, something she didn't tell me. I remember asking her, "Did you ever see someone in the house? Like physically see them?" She said, "I don't want to answer that." That was the last time I saw her. Why she chose that moment to finally admit she believed me? Maybe she thought talking about it in the daylight was safer. I think she didn't want to revisit the details. The house wasn't big. There weren't many places to hide. Whoever, or whatever, I saw had to be somewhere the entire time I was staying there, watching me check locks and lights, listening to me walk around, maybe standing just out of sight when I turned my head. I've stayed in other houses since then. Friends' places, Airbnbs, hotels, but I've never been fully comfortable sleeping anywhere that isn't my own room, especially if the layout is long and open like hers was. I always feel like there's someone in the parts of the room I'm not looking at. Even if Jenna didn't want to talk about the details, she saw things too. Enough to move out. Enough to remember it years later. Enough to look genuinely scared while standing in a random grocery store parking lot. Something in me feels like whatever she didn't say is better left unsaid. Some things don't need explanations. Some things are scary enough just by existing. Some things don't follow rules or logic or stories. They just happen. And I think that house was one of those things.